in this video that the officer grabbed the camera at any time.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Some people say the Holocaust never happened either.
Do we need to take another break?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Ms. Malone, I would prefer to continue. I would prefer that you manage
okay.
this undignified spectacle so we can continue.
Sir, I am trying to manage the public.
You're an undignified spectacle.
$5,000. Please stop. Please stop. We are here to try to resolve Mr. West's appeal. All of this is stopping us from doing that. Please, help us.
Yes, lies from the police are stopping us from getting to the truth. I'm done now. I will not say anything for 3 minutes.
Please don't say anything until the time for public comment.
The Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of the word grab, I presume we can all agree that the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition would probably be appropriate, says that grab is defined as to quickly take and hold someone or something with your hands or arms. In my review of the video, that's not what we see. What I see as I review that video again and again and again is I see the officer screening the lens of the camera. I see the officer, I realize in the officer's testimony that he feels like his personal space is being compromised and he's concerned about what is going on. He very quickly, during this 9 to 10 second period of time, realizes exactly what is happening. And remember, as the officer approached the rear of the vehicle, he had about 1 second to make a determination about how he was going to respond to what confronted him. And under those circumstances, his reaction was not unreasonable under those circumstances, which is the standard under the directive. I would suggest to any of you, I certainly feel this way myself, if I found myself confronted by that set of circumstances under similar conditions, I may react that way myself momentarily until I determined what was going on. Based on my review of the case, that is my belief about how the officer reacted to what he was confronted with at the moment. He took seconds to determine what was going on, and then he broke contact with the complainant. There's no evidence in this video that the officer attempted to take the camera away from the complainant. In fact, the only evidence that I can see in the video is that the complainant appears to slap the officer's hands. So there's nothing here that indicates to me that a grab occurred, which is what the allegation states. Now, I have to change gears slightly because in Director Severe's controvert of the finding, he somewhat changed the focus of the allegation, or suggested that we change the focus of the allegation to exactly what you all have been discussing here today. And that is, if you set the issue of grabbing the camera aside, and you look just specifically at the conduct issue alone, is it a conduct issue to put your hand in front of the camera? And again, I want to be very clear. I absolutely believe citizens have the right to film the police, and this is not an issue in any way, shape, or form in my mind. The question really is, was the officer's behavior reasonable under the specific set of circumstances that exist in this case, under the specific set of circumstances that occurred in the 9 to 10 seconds that this interaction took place, before the officer realized what he believed was going on and got back into his vehicle and left. I would agree completely. I would have sustained this violation if I believed from the evidence of the video that the officer did indeed grab the complainant's camera, that the officer did indeed attempt to deprive the complainant from having his camera. I would have sustained the violation if I had believed that the officer had exacerbated this situation in any way, shape, or form. The officer does not engage in any kind of verbal altercation with the complainant. The officer is polite. In fact, the officer is doing exactly what I would expect him to do if he believes he's cut somebody off or potentially hit somebody coming out of the driveway apron from the precinct. He stopped to determine what the problem was. He makes this sudden encounter. He responds. He realizes what's going on. He changes his direction immediately, and he goes about his business. That is the very definition of reasonable under any circumstances, and it fits clearly within the Directive 310 in terms of the operative portion that I've just described to you. That was the analysis that I put into to this particular allegation. And yes, it's possible that a slightly different wording of the allegation may have made it more simple to provide a more detailed analysis of what occurred. I do have the opportunity to look at the allegation and make a determination if other violations exist here, but my analysis of it was that the grab did not occur, and that beyond that, the officer's behavior was reasonable, and therefore, this particular allegation was not sustained.
Yeah, so we've heard that the officer's concern was that he may have hit someone, or there was a safety issue, him pulling out.
Yes, sir.
And so what I'm trying to understand is, and maybe you would have to make an assumption on this part, is the reason for him putting his hand in front of the camera. They seem to be two separate issues, is what I'm getting at. Do you agree that are they tied together? Are they separate issues?
No, I believe they're separate issues. From my understanding of my review of the interviews, Officer Groshine was concerned, the officer was concerned because he saw this thing coming towards his face, which ultimately turned out to be a camera, and he put his hand up. That's not an unreasonable reaction under those circumstances within that short period of time.
Is there anything in police training in regards to some similar situation occurring like this, in regards to what an officer's practice should be when they're encountered with a situation like this? And I don't even want to put the word camera, because I'm assuming, the assumption is here, he wasn't sure it was a camera?
That's my assumption, that's my understanding from the interview, and so what I would say to you is that, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I would say to you is, again, this event occurred in a very compacted time frame. And we don't have a picture of what the camera looked like that Officer Groshine saw. We don't know really what Officer Groshine thought it was initially. He puts his hand up. I'm going to suggest to you, based on my, Daryl Turner made some suggestions about his training experience. I'll suggest to you about my training experience. If I'm in close quarters with somebody that I think could potentially be a threat,
you'll rush towards them.
In those close quarters, I'm probably going to close that distance to attempt to engage that threat. The officer in this case was at close quarters, saw something that ultimately turned out to be a camera. He simply put his hand up and screened it, realized what it was, and then disengaged.
He neutralized the threat.
Well, I'll be very brief, and,
I think she just wanted to ask you a question.
oh, I'm sorry,
Still-
oh, you want to ask me?